We spend a lot of time talking about finding the right people, the right mentor, the right brotherhood, the right men to have in your corner. And that matters. We talked about that the last 2 weeks. But today, I want to ask you a different question. Not who's speaking into your life, but what kind of voice are you in somebody else's life? Because here's the truth most men never sit with. While you've been looking for the right brotherhood, someone else has been looking for you. Most men want to be a good friend, a good brother, a good mentor. But wanting it and actually being it are two very different things. Here's what real brotherhood often gets replaced with: hanging out without going deep, checking in without really asking, saying, "I'm here for you," but never actually showing up when it costs something. And the version that does the most damage? Telling a man what he wants to hear instead of telling him what he needs to hear. We talked last week about how dangerous it is to have those kinds of voices in your life. But what if you're that voice for someone else? What if the man you call your brother is making a decision right now that's going to cost him everything, and you already know it, but you haven't said a word? That's not loyalty. That's the most comfortable form of abandonment there is. Proverbs 27:17 says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." Most men have heard that verse. It gets put on coffee mugs, posted on walls, but I don't think we actually sit with what sharpening costs. Think about what happens when iron meets iron. There's friction, there's heat, there's resistance. It's not a comfortable process. The blade doesn't get sharper because someone told it how great it already was. It gets sharper because something pushed back against it hard enough to change it. Now, that's what real brotherhood looks like. Not constant encouragement, not just showing up for the good times. A man who sharpens you is a man who loves you enough to create some friction. To say the thing that's hard to say. To ask the question you've been avoiding. To tell you the truth, even when it costs him your comfort. That's the kind of brother Scripture is describing. The question is, are you that for anyone? Here's where I want you to get honest. Think about the men closest to you right now. When one of them is heading in the wrong direction, do you say something? Or do you stay quiet because you don't want to make it awkward? When one of them is struggling, do you go deeper? Or do you ask, "How are you doing?" and accept, "I'm good," as the answer? Now let this sit. When one of them needs to hear something hard, are you the man who says it? Or do you wait for someone else to? Real brotherhood is not easy. It never has been. But here's what I want you to hold on to. The fact that you're even asking yourself these questions means you're already moving in the right direction. Most men never stop long enough to ask whether they're actually showing up the way they think they are. You're asking, and that matters. So here's what this looks like practically. Think of one man in your life right now that you know needs to hear something true. Not to tear him down, not to lecture him, but because you actually care about where he ends up. Have that conversation this week. And if you can't think of a single man you're close enough to have that kind of conversation with, well, that's your answer. That's where you start, because you cannot sharpen someone you're not close enough to touch. Brotherhood without depth is just company, and company won't change your life. But a brother who loves you enough to tell you the truth, one of those will. Well, we've spent 3 weeks on this now. Week 1, you were never meant to do life alone. Week 2, the voices around you are shaping your direction. Week 3, you are someone's voice. Be the kind of man that makes the men around you better. Be the iron. Keep walking the narrow trail.